say every man is defined by his reaction to any given situation. Well, who would you want to define you? Someone else or yourself? Whatever you do, homie, give your heart to it and stay strong.
What's good, family? This is Nigel Dunn here again to talk to you all about self-affirmation. Earlier this week, I was having a conversation with someone who considers themselves an extremist. And what I mean by that is, like, there's two ends of the spectrum, right? Either you're completely dug in, or you're locked in on doing something, or you're not going to do anything at all. And that can be beneficial if you can channel it. But typically what I see when people are on either end of the spectrum at all times is that there's a lack of balance and they don't really have the ability to control it. So the person I was talking to was trying to, they were having a moment of self-awareness, and they were trying to understand how they could get off of that roller coaster and get away from those extremes and kind of operate more in a happy medium. The thing that I suggested to this person is, first, I like to always identify what I feel like one of the root causes is of a situation. So I feel like if you're an extreme person, you're probably very impulsive, and they agreed with that. So if you're impulsive, then that probably means that you have an idea and then you automatically act on it. And in this person's case, they're actually like a really high performer when they're focused on something. So that's good, but you can't be 100% focused on every single thing in your life. So automatically, once you lock in on one target, you're not focusing on another, because your vision is so narrow and your scope is so limited and your drive is so far in this direction that you're not able to be effective in another direction. So impulsiveness, how do we combat the urge to be impulsive and entrench yourself in the process of something, as opposed to observing your options and saying, well, I'm going to dedicate this amount of time here, this amount of time here, and be effective as possible without draining myself? I'm a big proponent of mindfulness and meditation. So I always invite people to incorporate some of those practices in their daily routine. What I find when I invite people to meditate or practice mindfulness is that either they are skeptical because it sounds like some hooju juju or some magic stuff, or they're just not experienced with it, or they say, like, I've tried it, but I'm not able to, like, I'm not good at that, I don't know how to. Or they say something like, I don't know how to focus on nothing. And that, I feel like, is the most common misconception with mindfulness and meditation. The examples that I gave this person I was talking to, I said, well, you could practice yoga, which is a form of meditation. There are a lot of different forms of meditation where your body is not necessarily in one place and you're not confined to sitting with your legs crossed and your fingers in some position and saying over and over. You're doing something active where you're not necessarily focused on your thoughts, but you're focused on what your body is doing, how you feel, what the instructor is telling you, and you're engaging your senses. So that's one thing I invited this person to do. But then I like to explain exactly what meditation is in my perspective. So I'm sharing that with you all today. Meditation, in my experience, is essentially the process of redirecting your mind to focus on what you tell it to focus on. What I mean by that is, or I'll give you an example. I typically, will incorporate this. So this is, you can obviously read it. It says, I am. When I first started meditating, I was in a really low point in my life and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So in order to get some clarity and some direction, and also just reinforce like self-confidence and positive ideology, I used to write 3 positive affirmations every single day as long as I remembered to, and then I would meditate on those 3 affirmations. So I would say something like, I am confident, I am bold, whatever you want to say. And if you want to recruit it into your life, then this is the perfect time to do so. And you don't obviously have to do the affirmation route, but this is just the route that I chose. So I would start off by saying these 3 phrases or words aloud. And I would lay on the floor, supine, so like palms facing up toward the ceiling with my back in contact with the ground and my legs flat, just everything flat. And I would put something right under either my upper back, my mid back, or my neck, just so I could kind of open up my thoracic spine and be able to breathe deeply or more deeply, and also get in that stretch. And what else did I do? So I would lay supine on the floor, repeat the words out loud until I felt like I had a firm grasp of the 3 words that I was trying, or the 3 phrases that I would try to incorporate. Then once I memorized them and I could say them in my head, I would just stop saying them aloud and repeat them over and over in my head. And with each time I said a phrase, I would take a deep breath. So I would say, if I'm saying I am confident, I'll say, I am confident. And it might feel weird. A lot of people are kind of adverse to the idea of saying things that they believe they should already be or already feel. But a lot of times we ignore ourselves, and we might not feel confident, but we don't want to reinforce the idea that we are confident because it feels corny. But I promise you, if you can get past the initial feeling of like dismissiveness or apathy, or just like this is corny, it'll be beneficial, it'll pay dividends, and I'll explain why later. Now, you're not going to be able to have a laser focus on these 3 phrases or whatever you're trying to meditate on for the entire time. That's the beauty of meditation, is that you're training your mind to go away from, so it'll wander, right? Imagine that the straight line is the affirmation, and your mind is going to wander. You're going to think about what you ate for dinner last night. You're going to think about the awkward encounter you had with your crush. You're going to think about your assignment that's due tomorrow, or a big project at work. Whatever's going on in your life, your mind's going to veer onto those things, but you're able to redirect it to center. And that is huge, because when we go back to what we started this video on, which was impulsiveness and extremes, all of those things are essentially your mind jumping so far off of center that you're not able to focus on the task at hand. This is the practice of kind of unwinding your mind and realigning it and allowing it to focus on what you tell it to, as opposed to whatever the world tells it to focus on. The next thing that I want to touch on is your subconscious mind. And if you're into mindfulness at all, or psychology, then you're familiar with the term your subconscious mind. But if you're not, just know that your conscious mind is what you choose to think about. Your subconscious mind is what you automatically think about. You don't really have control over your subconscious mind. And there's always like that image of an iceberg. I hope I did a good job of explaining that, but there's always an image, right, of an iceberg, and I'll probably put it in this video, where the top of an iceberg, if you know, is huge in all actuality, but the top of an iceberg is about 5% of the actual size or mass of an iceberg. What you don't see above water, when you're above water, is that the bottom of the iceberg is about 95% of the actual mass or size of the iceberg. And that is essentially the physical representation of the conscious and subconscious mind. The conscious mind is only about 5% of your actual thoughts. The subconscious mind is the majority of the thoughts that come into your head. So you don't have the ability to directly control your subconscious mind. But what you do have the ability to control is what the thoughts that you input into your subconscious mind. If you're feeling a lack of confidence or a lack of self-control, such as the example that we started with, that is stemming from your experience and your self-talk. And self-talk is essentially just like it sounds. It's what you tell yourself, the words that you think on a daily basis in reaction to the experiences that you have. If you go through a day and you have experiences where your confidence is shaken. These experiences that are negatively impacting your subconscious mind. If you don't train yourself to reverse some of those negative experiences that you experienced from your entire, like from your childhood, then you're missing out on the opportunity to reinforce your subconscious mind and your positive self-talk. Affirmations are key to negating all of that negative self-talk that your environment is imputing onto you. I hope this makes sense.